AI is great at a lot of things, and it can do them well. But if you ask it to create an image, or worse, a video, I've generated a few images, and I can assure you, they're the stuff nightmares are made of. And sure, some apps like Midjourney were okay with image generation, but even they weren't anything special. But then came DALL-E 3, and it was from OpenAI. And all of a sudden, everyone became an artist, practically overnight. That's why you see the influx of those Ghibli-style memes and images on your X feed. That being said, there is a dark side to all of this, and if you want to know what it is, just keep on watching. So what's up with all the Ghibli memes? You know, those dreamy, emotional scenes of like a sad raccoon at a bus stop or a lonely vending machine in the rain, all painted in that signature, soft, nostalgic Studio Ghibli look. Yeah, those ones. They're even super viral on X, formerly Twitter, Instagram, and Reddit. Even TikTok loves those. Did you know that a lot of those were made using OpenAI's updated image generation tool DALL-E 3? All you have to do is write a prompt like a melancholic fox wearing a raincoat, sitting alone under a street lamp, Studio Ghibli art style, cinematic lighting, and DALL-E 3 will give you something eerily beautiful. And because it understands long, nuanced prompts well, it nails the emotional tone that makes those memes hit so hard. Now, sure, some artists manually tweak AI images in Photoshop or Procreate after generation, but that's personal. Most of them are made just by typing a prompt, or just feeding the chatbot an image you like it to change, and it does it in a second. And because it's so easy to use with ChatGPT now, more casual creators are jumping in and making this stuff without needing to learn Midjourney's Discord-based workflow or master prompt crafting. But how did these memes become so popular all of a sudden? Before we actually tell you, why do you think DALL-E 3 is so popular? Is it because it can understand nuanced prompts? It has better diffusion? OpenAI's new image generator, the one powering DALL-E 3, didn't just pop out of nowhere. It's the result of years of deep work from some of the smartest minds in AI, combining breakthroughs in image generation, natural language understanding, and large-scale training. The project originally started as an experiment in combining text and image understanding, hence the name DALL-E, which is a mix of Salvador Dali and Pixar's Wall-E, symbolizing creativity meets machine intelligence. The earliest version came out in 2021, and it was already pretty cool, but kind of clunky in terms of how well it followed your prompt. Then came DALL-E 2, which improved quality a lot, but still had its quirks. DALL-E 3, though, that's the game changer. It can smash that like button, just like you should if you haven't done so already. But no, in all seriousness, DALL-E 3 can handle long, complex, nuanced prompts and generate images that actually match what you asked for, which used to be one of the biggest frustrations in the AI art space. That leap happened because OpenAI moved away from earlier techniques and built this model from the ground up using diffusion modeling, where the system starts with visual noise and then gradually clears up the image to match the text prompt. And instead of relying so heavily on clip to match images with text after the fact, they made the whole process more natively aware of language from the start. Behind the scenes, the people who built this were a mix of OpenAI's best minds. You've got Ilya Sutskever, one of the co-founders and a former Google Brain researcher, Aditya Ramesh, the guy who actually came up with the original DALL, Prafula Dhariwal, who's been central to OpenAI's work on diffusion models, and a whole squad of researchers and engineers with serious credentials in vision language AI, multimodal learning, and large model scaling. It's not just one genius, it's a hive mind of talent driving this forward. What really made DALL-E 3 pull ahead of competitors like Midjourney and Stable Diffusion is the way OpenAI focused not just on quality, but on usefulness and integration. Midjourney has its strengths. It's super stylized, fast, and popular among digital artists, but it often struggles to really understand what you're asking for unless you become a prompt wizard. DALL-E 3, especially through ChatGPT, lets you talk your way into refining the image. You don't have to tweak the prompt 100 times. You can just say, make the sky more dramatic or add a lighthouse, and it gets you there conversationally. That usability shift is huge. OpenAI also leaned heavily into safety and control. They don't let you generate celebrity lookalikes or violent content, which might sound limiting, but it's actually a smart move for long-term adoption, especially in education, marketing, and enterprise environments. Compare that to something like Stable Diffusion, which is open source and gives you a lot of freedom, but also opens the door to misuse and inconsistent quality. It's kind of like the difference between Photoshop and a custom modded graphics tool. You can do more wild stuff with the latter, but it's harder to control and scale. And don't forget, DALL-E 3 isn't standing alone, part of OpenAI's bigger ecosystem. That's a major advantage. It gets to plug into ChatGPT, which gives it the ability to understand and iterate on your ideas naturally. No one else is doing that on this level. Midjourney might make prettier fantasy art out of the box, but OpenAI is building a generalist AI system that can switch between talking, drawing, coding, and more, all in one place. So yeah, DALL-E 3 rose to the top not just because it draws pretty pictures, but because it thinks while it draws. And it works the way people naturally communicate. That combination of intelligence, usability, and safety is what really set it apart. But how has this model changed diffusion models? Diffusion models, at their core, work kind of like reverse noise filters. You start with a totally noisy, static-filled image, just random pixels, and the model gradually cleans it up step by step until it turns into a fully detailed picture. It's like watching a blurry photograph come into focus, except it starts from pure chaos. The model learns how to do this by being trained on tons of examples, so it gets really good at knowing what kind of noise leads to what kind of final image. Now, before DALL-E 3, most image generators using diffusion models would take your text prompt, generate an image, and then use a separate system, like Clip, to kind of check if the image matches what you asked for. It was like having a second model as a judge after the fact, rather than having your image generator actually understand the prompt while creating the image. That setup could lead to some really cool images, but a lot of the time, they'd miss key details or just interpret things weirdly. What DALL-E 3 does differently is it skips the middleman. It doesn't need a separate system to interpret your prompt. Instead, it understands the language directly, like deeply. The text you give it isn't just a suggestion. It's part of the image building process right from the first pixel. The model is essentially thinking about your words as it's generating the image, not afterward. That makes it way better at capturing nuance, mood, specific details, even abstract concepts. And that's why it feels like DALL-E 3 gets you more than other tools do. But all of the Ghibli-style images have raised serious privacy concerns among experts. Here's why. The recent wave of Ghibli-style AI images raised some privacy concerns. And it's not just about aesthetics, it's about what people are putting into these tools. When users create those dreamy, emotional scenes, they're often drawing from personal memories or feelings. Prompts like a girl waiting for her dad in the rain, or a lonely robot looking at the stars might sound innocent, but they can be deeply personal. That's where people start wondering what happens to those prompts after they're entered. OpenAI says it doesn't use API or ChatGPT enterprise data to train its models, but for free users, data might be collected unless they opt out. So if you're using DALL-E 3 through ChatGPT and typing in detailed, emotional prompts, there's a chance those inputs are being stored, at least temporarily. Even if the final images are anonymous, the prompts themselves can be revealing. It's not just art, it's introspection. And when people feel like their personal thoughts might be quietly feeding a massive AI model, that makes them pause. The more emotional or specific the content, the more people start to question where their data ends up and who might have access to it. Here's another video AI enthusiasts loved watching. This is AI Exposed, demystifying the world of artificial intelligence, one video at a time.